Hey everyone, and welcome into the Reload podcast, along with Nathan Gilslider and Marshall Scott. I'm Justin Southwell, and you know what they say, it ain't over till it's over. Well, it's over. Iowa State, last game of the year, held in there for a little bit, but ultimately fell once again. But Marshall, have any thoughts that you wanted to share right off the jump of how they looked against Iowa State?
Yeah, I've honestly sort of flushed the game at this point. The Gavin
Fair.
Freeman hurdle was cool.
That was
The one drive, the drive where Zane threw for 90 of his yards was pretty cool. But I'm mainly just sort of glad that it's over. I feel bad for the kids. Credit to those guys for sticking together and finishing the season as strongly as they could. We're really competitive these last 3 games when the team hasn't been super competitive the last 2 years. So I think they deserve a lot of credit for how they finished. But as a watcher of Oklahoma State football, man, I'm just sort of glad that I don't have to continue to watch that brand of Oklahoma State football again. And again, no, I don't want that to disparage the guys that were out there, giving their all. But man, just sort of glad it's over. Clint Bowen, thumbs up. Clint Bowen rocked. Was really good. Kobe Foreman sort of stood out. The freshman got some returns. Oh, this one is my favorite thought that I. So somebody asked me on Twitter, like after I tweeted the coin toss result that Oklahoma State had lost the coin toss. Somebody
that was crazy. Yeah.
Somebody asked me, has Oklahoma State won any of these this year? And I honestly I tweeted and I don't remember at all. So I went and was just searching, looking at the coin tosses all year. Oklahoma State went 2-10 in coin tosses this year. How does that happen? How does that happen? So yeah, I think that was just sort of that's Oklahoma State football in 2025 in a nutshell. That they can't even get the coin toss to go their way. So yeah, I'm just sort of glad it's over.
I want to go back and give Clint Bowen some praise. Now, the last 3 games of the year, it was Kansas State, UCF, and Iowa State. Kansas State, they're about 82nd in total offense, around 29 points per game. UCF, 75th total offense, about 24 points per game. Iowa State, 62nd in total offense with about 25 points per game. So, and looking at that, it's not like they're world beaters by any means, but you held Kansas State to 14 points, UCF to 17 points, Iowa State to 20 points. So you average 17 points per game over those 3 games. The first, 8, 9 games of the year, they were giving up 38.7 points per game. So to go from 38.7 to 17 points per game, well done, Clint Bowen. And he gave them a chance to win. So that's all we could ask for.
Yeah. And while the teams that Oklahoma State played of late might not be world beaters, basically everybody that has played Oklahoma State in the last however many years has looked like a world beater. It's been a get right spot for a lot of teams. So the fact that Oklahoma State was at least able to slow some teams down, yeah, Clint Bowen deserves a ton of credit.
Nathan, any other thoughts for you on Iowa State?
Cue the music. It is over, boys. It's over. We did it. Yeah, I mean, obviously that in no disrespect, but it's obviously been a struggle. It's been a struggle for them, right? You can only imagine the mental gymnastics they've had to do every single week. Go to practice. It doesn't feel good when you get hit every day. You go, you know what I mean? And you're not winning, and so you don't have that payoff that keeps that going. So it's like, man, I really do mean kudos to those guys, because you guys just brought up some good stats. Our average margin, obviously the Oregon game is going to hike that up there, but our average, margin of loss was 29 points a game, and it was outrageous. And then I think through the last 4 games, including the Kansas game, I think I saw it was the average loss was 9.8 points.
Yeah, they might have covered the spread in each one of those games.
Exactly. We haven't covered the spread in a year and a half which, don't gamble, kids. But
do not, please.
Yeah,
lose a lot of money on OSU.
Yeah, they didn't build those casinos off of winners. But you guys brought up Clint Bowen, and it is true, right? I mean, just the fundamentals. You saw the tackling alone, right? Is so much better in these last several games. It's tough. So hats off to those kids for what they did. Parker Robertson, kudos to you, man. The last couple games, you finished your career the right way, and pretty awesome to see. And a couple of those other guys, that you just saw, and you're just like, man, you know what? They're getting after it. So not a whole lot else to say about that game. I will say this: as bad as we have been, which is bad, real bad. When you look at the bottom half of the Big 12, it is also not great. It gives me hope for a quicker turnaround because some of these teams are not good. Like, they're bad as well. They're just better than us. So they're less bad, is essentially. They're not good. They're just less bad.
Yeah, if Oklahoma State has any sort of offense over the last 3 weeks, it wins 3 games.
That's exactly. I mean, and we've talked about the, I don't know, quote unquote, necessary evil of having to go through a season like this to get a full reset of our program. And it's like the difference between this and getting a fully reset and Coach Gundy interviewing for the Kentucky job because there's 8 SEC jobs open is like the size of a 5th metatarsal bone on the foot of Haas Haney. You know what I mean? Like, that's how delicate this could have been, because you look at how poor some of these teams are. Like, we beat Tulsa with Haas, and this is just my opinion. You beat Tulsa, like, you're in the Houston game, just couldn't score. You're in the Cincinnati game, couldn't score. Nobody's beating Texas Tech. You were beating Kansas. You're beating UCF. You had Kansas State. Iowa State stinks. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was really that close to this unnecessary evil that all fans have had to go through. But I'm thankful it's over. And I'm thankful we have something to look forward to and new things coming.
7 or 8 plays either way. 6, 7. No. All right. It's dead.
Yeah, maybe a few more than that this year.
60, 70 plays either way.
But you guys make a great point. Bottom half of the Big 12, not great. It would make sense for somebody who is looking for the next program to be a head coach of. What a great landing spot in Stillwater, America, with so much potential. Actually wanted to give a shout out to O State Daily because they posted a nice article about what we can kind of anticipate and look forward to with a lot of the coaches that Eric Morris might be bringing over. And of course, one of those guys that he highlighted on here was the GM, Raj Murti. We talked a little bit about it, kind of glossed over our initial excitement about potentially what that looks like for OSU, having a GM in place.
Well, first off, he's 24 years old. And as the young guy on this pod at 30, like, holy crap. I could not imagine being the GM of a college football team at 24 years old. So that's pretty crazy. I watched a couple of interviews with him today.
Well, with him being young like that, are you getting Sam Presti vibes?
I saw that. Presti was 29, right, when he took over the Thunder GM spot. So, I'll take if Sam Presti is the floor, I will definitely take Raj Murti here. But yeah, listening to a couple of interviews with him today, it's something just like sort of cool about him that stood out. So he went to Houston. Whenever he got there, he had 52 credits just coming out of high school. So he graduated with I think it was finance. I graduated with a finance degree in 2 years. At Houston, he always enjoyed football. Came out of a high school in Arlington, always enjoyed football. But whenever he walked out there, he's like, "Hey, I'm probably not going to get to play this sport." So like instantly transitioned into like a student coaching role. He remembered like whenever college coaches would come to recruit some of the guys at his high school, the head coach would like pull him out of class also to be like, "Hey, this is somebody you're going to want in your building someday." It's like talking about him. So like from a very young age, he's been, and obviously he's still at a very young age, has sort of been building experience in this. So super excited. He mentioned a lot of, high school recruiting is important. And I think for a school like Oklahoma State, you look at Texas Tech, what Texas Tech is doing right now is that they are portaling in a lot of guys as well. But they're really, taking big swings on some high school kids, on some elite level high school talent. So he mentioned like Sonny Dykes and Dana Holgerson really helped him get with Eric Morris. He told a story about, I think it was like Dana took him to some place to eat during some meetings, and Eric Morris walked up and he's like, "Hey, who is this kid?" And then Dana had to explain to him who he was and stuff like that. Now, obviously, he's going to likely join him at Oklahoma State. The wording on the tweets was sort of weird. He's currently working for Oklahoma State or doing work for. He's going to, I'd imagine, going to be hired for Oklahoma State. So, yeah, there was a ton of interesting stuff. Really, that he's super young. As Oklahoma State steps into this new era of things. Like nothing says new era like 24-year-old GM. Nothing says, hey, everything is changing around here. Yeah, so I'm excited about it. What does a GM do? How different does this look compared to last year? I think we'll still sort of learn that as like us as watchers of Oklahoma State. We'll sort of learn as we go because, like we've mentioned, Oklahoma State's not really been a modern football program these last couple of years. So looking forward to it. It's a good get by a lot of estimations. He's been in Houston, he's been in Fort Worth, he's been at North Texas. So he's got a wide spread of Texas high schools that I imagine he's pretty plugged in at. So yeah, I think overall, like the Eric Morris hire, we're really, really good on Oklahoma State to be able to find a way to get him over here.
Yeah. All you guys that have been listening and staying with us, thank you. You've heard me talk about the second most important thing after our football coach is getting this in place for the structure change. And so that'll be interesting. Oklahoma State is not set up the way that a lot of schools are. And so there's going to be some modernization of positions and maybe, some changing of titles or new guys brought in, or, that's just the groundwork is just getting laid for that. So you talk about it, Marshall. You hear this guy talk and you can see why, he's impressive. It speaks volumes of a young man like this that Coach Morris say like, hey, if I'm going, he's coming with, type of situation. And, you love, he said in there, he's like, yeah, I was either going to, go into, I think, finance banking or something along those lines. And so, he's got that mind right now of, numbers and getting things where they need to go and meeting and matching. And he kind of talked about that as well, right? His job, what it was at UNT and what that means and how do you get the most out of it. And there's a few things that he's talked about and Coach Morris has talked about that I really stuck out to me. One of them being is that, like, as Oklahoma State fans for quite some time now, we have asked for a little bit more in our recruiting, right? A little bit like, hey, we got to push harder. We got to get NFL guys in here. And they both said recruiting is the lifeblood of what you do. You would love, in a perfect world, you would love to recruit very well, and a guy leaves or injured or whatever, then you use the portal to plug in those holes. So you at least love to hear that. Obviously everything's great in theory, but I would imagine a lot more portaling for Oklahoma State this year than they probably would like to do, and hopefully get us on track a bit faster. But then I think you'll see that these guys, they're going to go all in on recruiting and recruiting on value based and where they find it. And that's what a lot of what he talks about. And, even some of the structure changes, like he talked about whenever he first got to North Texas, he had never done like a restructuring of positions. And so, that's coming to Oklahoma State. So we'll see where that goes and how that falls. But this is something that Oklahoma State fans have been clamoring for. We don't know what that means for somebody like a Kenyatta Wright, who's in and fans love because he loves Oklahoma State, but it's something that's needed to change. It's no fault of Kenyatta's, the position that he was put in for something like this as we're so fast and evolving, but he loves Oklahoma State. So, maybe there's a place for him in a different role to be an ambassador or player personnel or relations. You know what I mean? There's something like that. But this was essential, in my opinion, to Oklahoma State moving forward, modernizing, and utilizing the resources that we do have, which is more than what we've been led to believe, and doing it properly.
Yeah, here's a quote that stood out. I'm just going to read the end of this. So he said, at the end of the day, if you look at the successful programs anywhere across the country, they found a way to make the rules work for them. By no means does that mean bending lines or anything like that. It just means using them to their maximum potential. Like that, like Oklahoma State has not been using the rules to their maximum potential, or maybe even their minimum potential at certain aspects.
Marshall, we tried to, and then the NCAA will step in and say, you can't do QR codes on the helmets. So
I think the QR codes on the helmets was the most wild thing ever. Because again, nobody's ever going to, people are moving. I just never got any of that. I didn't get why it got banned, and I didn't get why it got implemented in the first place, but I concede my time.
Well, I'd like to take 1 minute back. The example that he brought up, which I thought was, I'm not saying Oklahoma State wouldn't or didn't do this, but the first week of the season is still considered dead period under the calendar. And if you have a home game, you can still get recruits in, even in a dead period. So you're one of the few schools, so half the nation can't have recruits in the first week of the season. And he's like, well, we utilize that heavily, right? So just little things like that. I don't mean to insinuate that Oklahoma State wouldn't or didn't, but just to hear the thought process of like, this is what I mean, where I'm looking for those areas to exploit in a positive manner.
Yeah, I forget the way that he worded it, but he essentially said once you've sort of got a grasp on things, you start thinking of potential problems and how you would fix them. Like they're inserting problems that they're trying to work out just in case, like, okay, if this pops up, what are we going to do? So just the way that he was talking, and maybe this is something that just happens everywhere. Maybe this is something that Oklahoma State was already doing, but hearing a guy really, express the philosophy of things, it was really eye opening and gets you excited, I think.
Pretty cool for him though. 2024 at TCU, already mentioned it, but recruiting coordinator, moves over to North Texas to be the GM. So he's been a GM for less than a year, really. And what a meteoric rise. Come to be the GM for Oklahoma State, Power 4 conference. Pretty cool. Additionally, signing day is coming up Wednesday. OSU's lost 2 recruits and offers to 2 JUCO guys.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a super weird signing day. Right now, Oklahoma State has 6 guys committed, which is just not a big number going into signing day. Obviously, there's reason for that, the past however many months. So, yeah, they lose Aiden Martin, the Berry Hill offensive lineman, and then Brighton Niu, the Utah tight end. It seemed like some of that was on Oklahoma State's end of saying, like, hey, new staff here. We're going to keep looking around. I think that's fair to say that that's what happened with some of that. And then, yeah, like you mentioned, they've offered 2 JUCO guys, an offensive lineman out of Garden City. It's like 6'5" interior guy, was playing, I think, left guard. It's like 6'5", 310 or something like that. It was JUCO film. He looked good. He was moving his feet. And then they offered a linebacker out of Mississippi named Tarian Davis. My favorite thing about him is I love ridiculous high school stats. His senior year of high school, he had 142 tackles. So that's just awesome. So, and he was listed pretty crazy too. He's listed at 6'1", 230. And then I was like scrolling through his pictures and I like saw him next to a child and he made that child look like a child, we'll just say. So yeah, big dude, JUCO guys. I feel like JUCO guys at Oklahoma State, it's either like the best thing ever or it just sort of is a depth piece that doesn't necessarily work out. That's like historically, how things have gone. But yeah, I think, 2 quality offers. We'll see what happens on signing day. I think signing day is going to be a little funky with, this new staff is in. Who are they trying to get? They offered that 4-star linebacker right after they, got the job. So I'd imagine there's a couple surprises. Maybe there's 1 or 2 guys that still jump off the bandwagon. I think it's going to be a fluid situation, I think, heading into Wednesday. And I'm sort of excited for it because, it's not a ton of guys and I don't think it's going to end up being a ton of guys. But very rarely do you go into signing day following Oklahoma State and you're not exactly sure what you're going to get. It's a little surprising. It's sort of been standard issue this last handful of years. So yeah, signing day is Wednesday. I'm going to wake up really early and then probably have something that keeps me up. Then I think I agreed to do another podcast that night. Last signing day. Yeah, I know. I can't say no to podcasts. It's an issue. Last signing day was, so they have the signings. Then they fired everybody. And then Oklahoma State played Tulsa basketball in Tulsa. For some reason, I went to that basketball game. I was so tired by the time that I got home that night. So luckily there's not a basketball game in Tulsa on Wednesday that I'll be going to.
For the love of the game. That's what Marshall does.
I really had to. That was the first time that like all the walk-ons got in. I had to watch Mili Vukovic play, his first minutes at Oklahoma State. I really had to.
It's going to be an on time. Coach Morse talked about it a little bit, like obviously not ideal. And, we kind of talked about it a little off before we started. And it's like a large part of me really respects, and after watching everything that Lane Kiffin has done and some of these other programs and how they've gone about this, it's like, got to respect the way that Coach Morris is going about it. And at the very least, optically looks very still bought in and locked in on winning this American championship for North Texas. And a little bit of me kind of wishes he was in Stillwater and announced and, doing his thing. But, I think he has a long-term look at this. And if doing it the right way means he misses out on 1 or 2 high school recruits in his first class, it appears to be well worth it to him. And you got to respect it. So, there's a few guys, maybe flip, maybe you add. You guys brought up some JUCO offers. Those are, Justin, as even looking at it firsthand, there is and this is coming from a JUCO product. Okay, so this is not me talking crap on JUCO players, but there is a big difference between Tyreek Hill and Chris Carson and other guys you hope maybe can contribute in some form. You know what I mean? So you just don't know really what you're getting. We had a couple guys this year at OSU that contributed quite well from the JUCO level. One of them played in the JUCO national championship last year, came over and had a lot of snaps for us this year. But, you just really don't know what you're going to get. It's like a box of chocolates. But it'll be interesting how the portal goes, because I would imagine that this staff right now, outside of guys that either they're recruited at North Texas that they think can play at this level, or a few OSU recruits that we lost that are still interested, that they like, is going to be almost solely focused on portal for OSU this time around.
And a lot of that is just the calendar. There's just no
exactly
way around it. The calendar is the way it is.
Yeah, exactly. So, it is what it is. And so, I don't want fans here getting like nervous because they're like, well, Arkansas just got their guy and they flipped 3 dudes, and Missouri, and it's like, it's not the situation we're in. And we took Coach Morris, which I'm all in. So that's kind of what you get. And that's what we knew what we were getting. And we knew how committed he was to North Texas and finishing the job that he started with the players he told them he would do that with. And, it's like, if you were to flip around and Oklahoma State were to find themselves in a situation like this 6 years from now, I would hope that he would do the same thing for us if we gave him the opportunity. You know what I mean? So you just kind of live with it. It is what it is.
And nobody should be surprised by the antics of Lane Kiffin. We knew this would happen. Come on.
It was awesome because it was so telegraphed. Like, everybody knew his decision was coming up, and then like you still couldn't imagine how dramatic it would get. Like, people were waiting at the airport to see who got on the plane with him so they could boo that guy and like call his family names and stuff like that. It was just like, holy college football, what is going on here? That's awesome and horrible at the same time. But college football is awesome. Some of the stuff that went on there was not awesome.
A quick ad break here. The Reload podcast is brought to you by Brewster Consulting Group. Do any of these sound familiar at your company? Our processes are manual and inefficient with no documentation. Our data reporting takes forever and isn't accurate. We hear all the hype about AI, but have no clue what it actually means for our business. Our projects always run over time and over budget. If so, talk with our friends at Brewster Consulting Group. They help build organizations that run like well-oiled machines with clear processes, reliable data and reporting, and technology that actually works for you. Their team of 6 Sigma Black Belts, PMP certified project managers, and seasoned data engineers have delivered solutions that are built to last for local clients like the Tulsa International Airport and Medify. They've also delivered solutions for large international enterprises like DP World. Even better, Brewster was founded and is run by a proud OSU alum and season ticket holder. Learn more about them at brewsterconsulting.com, or learn more about their methodologies by connecting with them at Brewster Consulting on LinkedIn or YouTube.
That was a heck of an ad read. That was one of your best one yet.
Oh, appreciate it. Episode 23. Finally nailed it.
Jordan year.
All right. Well, we do have to do a little bit of a uniform review / a look back on the season. But before we look at the entire season, let's just look at the uniform that we wore against Iowa State. Black, orange, black. This time with cursive Cowboys, which was a little bit of a memory jog for me. I was thinking, have we ever worn black, orange, black with cursive Cowboys? Because I do it all the time whenever I'm playing in NCAA college football. But in fact, it was the first time we wore this particular combo with that helmet. So initial thoughts. Nathan, I think you were a big fan.
I was. I was looking back on the year as we were kind of talking about, like, it honestly might be my favorite on the year. I'm a sucker for cursive Cowboy. I think it looks great. Should never have left our basketball uniforms. Black, orange, black is a tough combo. I really liked it. I think it's great.
It's funny you said should have never left our basketball uniforms, because that's how I actually feel about them. Like, cursive Cowboys should never have left the basketball uniforms in the way that they shouldn't be on the helmets. I don't like it on our helmets, but hey, everybody's got their own opinion. It is a cool alternative logo from time to time, but I'm getting to the point now where I'm like, just more brand, even more Pete. Cursive Cowboys is a little bit tough to read. So on the basketball court, though, on the jerseys, all for it. Give me cursive Cowboys all day.
That's fair. I'd like it, though.
Yeah, I liked the look. We discussed this, I think, earlier in the season, that I'm sort of getting old and that I like the white helmet, white pants a little bit more than I like the black accents. I think it has something to do with the fact that the numbers are white, that it maybe doesn't necessarily totally mesh together for me as well. But I think it was like easily a top 5 look of the season. I think that was up there with some of their best work.
We get to see it all here together on the 2025 OSU football uniform tracker on OK State Tracker on Twitter/X. So you do get to see the white, orange, white, and the black, orange, black all together. So you get to compare and contrast immediately. So you still feel that way. Just looking at it, white, orange, white, still better in your opinion.
Yes, I think so. I think I'm just like generally more excited whenever I see that they come out in white, orange, white. And I can't place that in terms of like design etiquette. I just think it in terms of making me happy. I think I like a white, orange, white more than I like a black, orange, black.
Maybe I'll do a mock-up and see what it looks like if they've got black numbers with an orange outline. Might venture a little bit more into the Oregon State territory at that point, but we'll see what it looks like. Thoughts on your favorite one for the year?
I think it's the Oregon one, as bad as that game was. I just think that was a sick look. I think the sleeves and stuff, the orange sleeves that they had that went with it, I think that was my favorite look of the year. If I had to go number 2, I'm going the all whites against Kansas. I think that was a fun look. And then if I had to pick a number 3, I'd get a little funky and I'd say the K-State white, black, orange, just because it was so out there. It looked so different than anything that they'd worn in a while that I think it was a little bit of fun. But yeah, I think that Oregon look was the best look. It was not the best performance. So hopefully that they don't just throw that out.
Yeah. You have the cursive Cowboys thing, and that's fair. I have an orange face mask thing. I do not like orange face masks. I don't. It does not look good to me.
I agree. I make an exception for this one combination at Oregon, but for the most part, I agree.
So for me, I really liked last game, and funny enough, there's 2 other ones that I like, and they're just old school, and I just think they look great. The first game of the year, orange, white, orange. I just think that's such a good classic Oklahoma State staple. It reminds me of one of my favorites of all time, the Thurman Thomas appreciation game ones, which I just think were elite.
Yeah.
And then the Kansas, the triple white.
Barry Sanders one, because that would have been the
Barry.
Okay, the game against Texas. Yeah.
Yes.
Because Thurman Thomas one against West Virginia, we wore all whites. But
you're right. But it was the same.
The same template.
Yes, same template. Yes, you're right. So I think UT Martin, the Kansas triple whites, and then the last game were probably my 3.
I like it.
I think the Houston one deserves a little shout out too. Just I like Patriot Pete, and I think the Houston look was pretty good.
Yeah, it's one of those 2. Nate kind of just pointed it out. Orange face mask, though. It's like
I don't mind an orange face mask. I don't like orange face mask on the orange helmet. Whenever they went straight orange against Cincinnati, I thought that was too much orange. But I don't mind an orange face mask on a white or black helmet personally. And I've only worn a high school helmet for what it's worth, and I think all my helmets were just like black face mask. But I don't know how I would feel looking into an orange face mask, if that makes sense. Yeah. I think that might take a little getting used to.
I think the difference between a white face mask and a black face mask is night and day, as funny as that sounds. But the white face mask, the face mask seems right there. It's thicker, and then the black one, thinner, feels like you can see through better. Orange, I'd imagine it's probably a little bit closer to the white. But, a lot of people they grew up, it was gray. Gray was like the only option you had. So even whenever OSU does some of the throwback helmets, got the numbers on the helmet, and they've got the gray face mask. And that's old school. That is.
The Pittsburgh Steeler helmets look the best when they have the gray face mask. It just looks like that's how it was supposed to be. Yeah. Justin, your favorite. Sorry, I
agree. Oh, my favorite. I mean, you guys pretty much already covered it, but it's like, the Oregon look. I agree. UT Martin, I think it looked better than the Arizona combo. It's the same thing, except Arizona had the stripes on the helmets. Those are, in my opinion, the top 2. The one against Iowa State, it looked better with the brand, but we had to go with what we got. So, and then obviously Kansas, all white, looks great. Oregon, UT Martin, Kansas would be my top 3.
Do you have least favorite?
Least favorite's all orange. Cincinnati.
Yeah, I think so.
Cursive Pokes, not a fan.
I like that they really went for it. They really committed to the orange, and I respect that. And I'm okay with it being out there. But yeah, I don't know that it needs to be done again. I think I'd agree with that.
I mean, the Baylor one too, it's like orange, black.
Yeah.
First time we saw that combination this year. First time ever. I'm like, I get it. I know why we don't wear it. Not good.
Orange helmets in general. We've singled out the 2 orange helmet games. So maybe this is an orange helmet issue.
This tracks.
Except when it's like orange flake, like metallic flake. Those used to be pretty sick.
Meh.
With
James
the
Gaffney
metallic,
helmet.
yeah, exactly. That's I think of right away.
If you had like the chrome orange with our current orange uniform templates, it would look
Doesn't
terrible.
work. Doesn't work.
Yeah. No chance. People are
Funny
like,
enough, funny enough,
not missing.
I was not a huge UCF helmet guy. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it looks cool on its own. I think it would look cool like sitting behind one of us right now. But on the uniform with the stripes and everything else that's going on in those uniforms, I'd agree. It would be great.
I agree. Cincinnati. We've talked about this before, Justin. The oranges just don't go well enough. Like they're not. They just don't. They're not it. So when you do that, they have to be seamless, and they're not. And so that always bothers me.
Got people commenting on that post. They want to bring back Phantom Pete. Want to bring back the badge, bandana pattern on the helmet. Got the Chrome Pete. People are calling back for that. So I feel like we almost, I don't want to say we didn't use the badge to its potential, but we kind of didn't. Like we never saw it on an orange helmet, for example. It's like, man, I wonder if we should bring back the badge, but I know we're not going to. So
I think Phantom Pete not being in the rotation anymore is sort of a travesty. I think Phantom Pete needs to bring back, even if they don't put it on helmets, put it on stuff and sell it to me and I'll buy it.
It's just that it was there for the gray era and we're out of that now. We don't have any gray pants. We don't have gray helmets, gray jerseys, any of that stuff.
Bring back Jumbo Pete.
He's gone.
I'm still waiting to bring back Bronc.
I know. We can wish. Well, let's jump over to some questions in the chamber to close this out tonight. We've got one here from John Jester. How much differently, if at all, will we look back at these last 2 seasons 10 years from now?
I think it sort of depends on how the next 5 years go. Like if college football blows up and it turns into the 40-team Super League and Oklahoma State's on the outside looking in, then we'll all look back on these last 2 years and be like, well, dadgum, if only. But if this is like a propelling Oklahoma State into the modern era and things get semi back to normal, then I think it'd be like, oh yeah, that was just sort of the end of the Gundy era. It got a little weird. Like I think that's how we'll sort of look back on it. And I think that's a way that a lot of coaching tenures end. It's obviously different at Oklahoma State because the guy was here 21 years and That's a super long time. But I think a lot of coaches that have a lot of success, they don't always just retire and go off into the sunset. So yeah, I think it sort of depends. I think the answer to that question lies in what happens these next 5 years.
I completely agree. Coach often used the Batman quote of, you're essentially you're either the hero or you live long enough to become the villain. And more or less, I'm sure I butchered that, but
you got there in the end. You got there.
That's the gist of it, which he lived out. Unfortunately, it's pretty dark right now. But to your point, Marshall, if this was the necessary evil to winning the Big 12 in 3 seasons, then you say, had to be done, I'd do it again. You know what I mean? Like that is kind of how you have to look at it. And it's sad. I think I will always look back on these past 2 seasons as a very sad time because it didn't have to be this way. Unfortunately, this is the way it happened. And I hope it doesn't make Coach Gundy not get his due when it's time. And I don't think it will, at least from the university standpoint. I know that won't be. But from him, I hope there'll be a time sooner rather than later. I know for a fact that the university is literally sitting on G, waiting on O to properly do something. Just have to get the go ahead from him, which I hope is sometime next season. Honestly, not the first game. Coach Morse needs to do that on his own, but I hope sometime next year we're able to do that if Coach Gundy decides he's done.
Our balls are in your court. Prairie Wind. Hypothetical question for you. And Nate, you actually already touched on it a little bit, but we can elaborate, I think. But the hypothetical proposed here is The Tulsa result is flipped. OSU wins an ugly game, 19-12, without the benefit of knowing how the season actually played out, if and when Haas would return, and how crazy the coaching cycle became. When is Gundy let go? Do you think it's still after the Tulsa game, even when? Is it at the first sign of trouble in Big 12 play, the November 8th bye week after the Kansas game, or at the end of the season?
I sort of think it's probably the first sign. I don't think that he would have gotten fired post Tulsa if they'd won the game, just because there'd been a couple of those results against Tulsa in recent years. I think it was like the 2020 year that got really sideways there for a little bit, the Shane Illingworth year, whenever he's the third quarterback off the bench and they found a way to win that game. So I don't think it would have been then, but I think I'm going to go with B at the first sign of trouble in Big 12 play, just because I think that Oregon, obviously last year was last year. And then that Oregon game, I think everybody was, I think that was like the moment where it's like, okay, this sort of needs to come to an end. And then obviously the Tulsa game solidified that by, losing to your in-state school. So I think that Oregon game sort of already kicked things into motion a little bit. So I think I would say the first sign of struggle in Big 12 play, which was obviously pretty quick.
I tend to say that it probably would have been at the end of the season, just because I think once you get to a certain point in Big 12 play, when that would have happened, there's really no point. But as we've seen, and as that Oregon game justly put, like there's a large gap in lack of talent right now at Oklahoma State from what the standard at Oklahoma State is. And so one way or another, it appeared to be heading that way. And everybody besides the AD, it has appeared wanted it to happen. And so as soon as you gave them a chance, they did it. So it's hard to say. I think you might be right, Marshall, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Those next two games are 45-27, 41-13. So if we're only flipping the Tulsa result, like getting housed by like 20 next, 18, and then I can't do math anymore, but a lot of points. So yeah. It's not like it was at the end of the year where Oklahoma State was competitive. There was that stretch where it was just like nothing was going correct. So I think it would have been happening somewhere around Baylor, Arizona.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think even if you do win, say you win 19-12, like the hypothetical, it's like the writing's on the wall. You're barely beating Tulsa. Probably should have lost if you wanted to like swing it that way. Like you're good enough to completely dominate Tulsa, and you barely eked out a win. He goes through the entire season. He probably goes 2-10, and he's given us the same speeches. Didn't seem like he's going to have any kind of sense of urgency to get things turned around. He seemed fine saying that there's 7 or 8 plays that could have gone a different way. The outcome would have been different. So I just feel like regardless of the outcome of that game, at the first sign of trouble in the Big 12, you got to move forward or you're going to miss out on Eric Morris. You got to put your hat in the ring. Like, it is what it is, man. Like, gave us no other options, and it stinks, but that's the way it had to. I'm glad it played out that way, as bad as it sounds, but he had multiple opportunities. He could have got fired at the end of last season, gave him another chance, and he did not capitalize on that chance. So Weiberg did the right thing. You got to move forward. So,
yeah, I thought I proposed a couple of more sliding doors moments for this season. What happens if Haas never gets hurt? OSU probably doesn't get blown out as bad. I think they still probably lose like 40 in the teens to Oregon. But then you come home, you probably beat Tulsa.
Man.
You're probably just generally more competitive throughout the year. What happens if Haas stays healthy?
I mean, if you remember back to that Baylor game, like we were right in that game. You know what I mean?
Cincinnati as well.
Exactly. In Houston. And so it's like,
but you're giving up like 40 points on defense per game.
Correct.
So
but
you
also, but I know that. And this is all obviously major hypotheticals, but you know this. If you're scoring instead of getting 3 and outs 4 times in a row, that also changes your defense quite a bit. And I'm not saying that, but I'm just, you know what I mean? Like,
and I'm also not convinced. I know we've talked about it. Hypothetical, Haas is the guy. He's amazing. But I still, in the back of my head, somewhere along the way, it's Robert Allen in the offseason telling us that it's a really tight quarterback competition. And Zane's got zip and Haas has the legs.
I miss the
And
zip
this is-
conversations. Oh, the zips.
But I'm
Those were the
saying,
days.
man, we were told one thing, and then on the field it was completely different. Haas looked pretty decent against a terrible UT Martin team in the first half of that game. I don't know how he looks against Oregon, Tulsa, Baylor. We just don't know. In our minds, we're thinking, surely he's better than this. Surely it wasn't actually a tight quarterback competition. But that's all the information I have to go off of.
Listen, we'll get to Robert Allen at the end of the show. But it would not be the first time that this man has said one thing and it'd be completely different on the field. So I take that with a grain of salt. I don't mean that anyway towards Robert Allen. I get that that's what Robert Allen is being fed and told, and that's what he says.
I just feel like, man, you gotta
Listen,
have some credibility.
I refuse.
It's not good.
I
It's not a good look.
refuse vehemently to believe that Michael Ray Gundy, a quarterback, offensive coordinator, head coach his entire career, watched this quarterback competition and one of the quarterbacks being here for 3 years and put his head down on his pillow and said, you know what, we're going to be just fine at this position if he plays. There's no way.
I hate that Alex Cate always gets this, but Alex Cate did, Alex Cate did go out there before Brandon Wheaton.
And there's reason for that back in the day. There's, man, I'm just saying.
All I know is just based off of that conversation,
I think
and
it's
Gundy's track record
sure.
versus what we have coming up with Eric Morris and his track record, I am very much looking forward to the future of this program. The quarterbacks that we've had in the past, thank you for coming to Oklahoma State. And that's about it.
Another sliding doors moment, because I want to, I guess, just continue to have us really getting angry, I think, is what's happening. What happens to Clint Bowen is just the DC the whole time. And that obviously wouldn't work because like a lot of the guys that transferred in were Grantham-esque guys. But let's just say the roster is the same thing, but it's Clint Bowen instead of Todd Grantham right at the rip.
I think you're in a bowl game.
Ooh. So do you think that Bowen made a bigger impact than Haas would have?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And
that changes
that's
the
actually
entire psyche of everything.
It becomes a nightmare scenario, Marshall.
100%.
You make it to a bowl game and you keep Gundy on and you keep Bowen on, you keep Haas and Flores on the roster, and you think that that's good enough to continue to win, and you're right there for the next year. Disaster. Just, it's time to rebuild. It's like let's go. Eric Morris era, can't wait. Let's go.
Agreed. What's the absolute worst thing you can be in professional sports?
Average.
Right? And that's what you're at. It was 6-6, and you're like, oh well, he's done it. 2023. We're right. You know what I mean? Like that is a nightmare scenario, and that's where we were. I mean this in no disrespect to anybody on this roster. And
there's a lot of disrespect coming with a clause
exactly.
like that.
With all due respect.
With all due respect. You can say whatever you want now because you said
exactly.
With all due
I'm in the clear. The lack of talent on this roster as to what needs to be there to compete and win at the highest levels, it is a chasm.
Clearly.
Chasm? No, I know it's chasm, but but it is very wide, guys. Like you need anywhere between 4 to 6 NFL guys on your roster. I don't mean like first round draft picks. I just mean NFL guys.
Yep.
To compete and win at this level. We might have one, and that's just based off of pure physical talent that we've seen in flashes.
What's up, Wendell Gregory? That's what we're talking about.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And that's it. He can be, and you saw it in the last several weeks. Offensive coordinators can take him out of the game. I mean, right? He's a situational rusher, and that's it. And that's not a negative. That's just his position.
And he's only a redshirt freshman. He can build on that for sure.
Exactly. So if that's your only guy, wow, we're in trouble. And that's what you saw. So I don't really know where I got off on that, except we
were talking about Clint Bowen at some point.
A lot more. There it is. We need a lot more talent in Stillwater. And despite where we were at, you win 6 and you have a very not so talented roster, and you would have done the same thing. And the thing that was like keeping people going was like, whoa, we have this recruiting class and this, couple defensive linemen and this running back, and yeah, they're freshmen in high school.
That was kind of keeping some people somewhat engaged, but for the most part, recruiting became a point of apathy across the fan base. Like, 100%. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Right, and then if you even look at what we decided to do in the portal when we went with quantity over quality, that clearly backfired. Right? I mean, let's just say, for instance, and I know this, you had Chandler Morris in Stillwater who wanted to quarterback Oklahoma State. And we refused to get anywhere close to what the University of Virginia paid him. And Virginia's in the ACC championship because of Chandler Morris. And I'm not saying you get Chandler Morris, but what I'm saying is that you had to pay somebody, and you should have paid up for 5 or 6 impact players rather than bringing in 20 guys and hoping you get some depth out of it.
Yeah. That's a good call.
Or you could be Steve Lutz and just only impact players. You're just like 15 impact players. Come on in.
What a baller move. All right, last one here from OSU Wildman, and it's actually 2 questions. Number 1, are you guys still going to do the reload for winter and spring sports? Marshall, go.
Yes, we will be. We'll probably be tuning it down to
once
a week.
This is news to me. I didn't sign up for this. I'm just kidding. I'm totally on board. Let's go.
Yeah, we'll probably just be doing 1 a week from this point on. We've sort of, depending on how bad the game was, transitioned to 1 a week every once in a while during the season. But yeah, we'll still convene regularly. What days and times we'll work all that stuff out. But yes, we will continue to do this throughout the offseason.
We've talked about a mega pod. Still might do something like that. You're talking about end of portal date, or maybe an Eric Moore's official press conference, or maybe something like that. I'm sure those will come in too.
All right, question 2 here from OSU Wildman. Do you think there's any chance of getting any of the decommits back on board? And are there any you really want? For example, Katie Jones.
Yeah, I do think there's a chance. I think that, like I said, signing day Wednesday is gonna be a little funky. I think Oklahoma State's maybe still in the running for Katie Jones. I'm not so sure about those defensive linemen. Obviously, Danny Beal just committed to Arkansas, his own home state school. Taj Overton's committed to Mizzou, who has good influx of NIL funds. So I'm not knocking anybody on that, but you just wonder if he's maybe a little harder to pull away. Somebody that I was really getting excited about, the quarterback, Case Evans. He's now committed to Iowa State. I haven't heard a ton on him lately, but I'd be interested to see because he was sort of a diamond in the rough type guy because he's from a small school in Texas. And it just sort of seems like right up Morris's alley. Obviously, he would have to talk to that guy and sort of see how he's wired and stuff like that. But that would excite me, I think, is to get really any quarterback on board. They don't have a quarterback in this class committed currently since Case Evans decommitted. So anybody that they added who was a quarterback, given Morris's track record, I think the fan base should probably be pretty excited about, and hopefully not too excited. We don't need to put ridiculous expectations on him, like, oh, this guy's probably Pat Mahomes or Cam Ward or something like that. But I think any quarterback that would sign on signing day, I think the fans should be fired up for, given Morris's history. The
potential is there.
You hit on the 2, Marshall. For me, it would be a guy like Taj Overton, who I've watched play quite a bit out of Owasso, and then Katie Jones. I watched him play last weekend. He kicked the ball on kickoffs. He returned it. He ran. He was the quarterback a little bit. He split out, ran it 23 times or something like that. I mean, he did everything. So he's clearly a very good football player, and he's somebody that you could definitely use. A guy like Taj, you'd love to have. You see some of these schools that have come and gotten some of these guys. obviously they clearly were pretty talented players, especially the defensive linemen, which is a position that Oklahoma State, since they stopped recruiting it very well and allowing Joe Bob and G Rich to do their things, it's gone downhill a little bit. So that's something that you'd hope to really replace. But I don't know, honestly. I don't know how much Eric Morris and or staff honestly is in on those guys. A lot of them are recruiters and they know them in the same circles and they're very aware of them. Like you said, maybe that, Case Evans coming out of Texas, I'm sure Coach Morris has looked at his film and those things. So if he's somebody worthwhile, kind of off subject there though, you brought it up. I was thinking about this during the game. Do you guys see Iowa State dying kind of a slow death down the same way that Oklahoma State did under Matt Campbell and their limited resources?
I don't know. It's tough to say. I think they've been, just because Matt Campbell's name has been so hot over recent years, I think maybe the outside has started to expect too much of just Iowa State in general. I think there's a little bit of that going on.
We talk about the standard is the standard, and Iowa State's kind of been punching above their weight, and they're getting back a little bit to the standard of what has been Iowa State. They're not the 10, 11 win program year in, year out.
We've only won 10 once, by the way, as the OG Kyle Porter loves to say. Win 10 games. They never could do it. I agree. I just watched that. I know they had injuries, right? Everybody's had injuries. We've had a bunch of defections, right? But you watch that game, and there really wasn't that much of a difference, and we're terrible. You know what I mean? And like, you're Matt Campbell, and you have a 3-year starter at quarterback, and I know you lost 2 wide receivers to the NFL, but what he does is so similar to what Mike Gundy did. I don't know if the adaptation and the funds are there to keep it going, I guess. I don't know.
You think he'll jump for another job?
I think I've given up on it. Yeah, I think I've just given up on it. I think it would have happened by now.
I don't, because from what I've read and what I've been told is that he refuses to play the game the way that the calendar is run. And if you don't, you will never interview. Like, for instance, like I know Penn State and a few other schools wanted him, but he's not going to interview while coaching and not going to do certain things that entails how you get these jobs. And they're not going to wait for you until this week to interview you. You know what I mean? Again, another point into me saying, if that's the leader of your football program, there's a lot of great things about that. Not one of them is progression. I thought about this watching the game, because it was like, gosh, this is like looking in a mirror, and I feel bad for him.
Yeah, bringing us sort of full circle.
I don't feel bad for him, actually, but I just wanted to say that.
There is so crazy enough, Jabari Thornton was committed to Oklahoma State. He's a wide receiver. He decommitted once the firing happened, committed to North Texas. So you wonder, like, obviously, hey, what's going to go on there? If Morris thinks enough of him to bring him to North Texas, does he think, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's like, I don't know if this guy's a Power 5 type of guy, but yeah, I think that's at least something to watch going into Wednesdays. Hey, there's a guy that used to be committed to Oklahoma State, committed to North Texas. So Jabari Thornton.
I was going to say that's one of the things that I'm hoping and I'm really looking forward to. And this is no disrespect to North Texas at all, but there should be a clear difference between who Oklahoma State and the Big 12 is bringing in and what you're trying to do and going and playing at North Texas. So I would hope that number would be very little. And I hope that there would only be a couple guys from this roster at North Texas that he wants to bring with him, because we have to stop fishing in the same ponds that North Texas and Texas State and Tulsa are fishing in if you're trying to separate yourself.
Yes.
Talent wise. So, I mean that no disrespect, but for me, like, I hope that there's not very many. I got a chuckle because like somebody asked the Tulane coach at his presser when he's being introduced at Florida today, like, well, I told those guys that are signing on Wednesday, you stick with Tulane. And I laughed because I'm like, yeah, because if you're going to Tulane, you shouldn't be signing with Florida. Like, that's what you want. It's just like, this is not this like, oh, I'm showing great character and letting Tulane keep their players. Like, they should stay at Tulane because they're not good enough to play at Florida. And that's no disrespect, but that means you're recruiting properly. Right?
If I was a high school kid and somebody was saying stick to Tulane while actively leaving Tulane, I'd be like, I'm not. Why would I listen to them? What are you talking about?
Exactly. But I got a chuckle because he was like trying to use that as like, I'm a man of good character. Like, you guys stay at Tulane. It's like, yeah, you think, because you were never recruited by Florida in the first place. So that's why you're at Tulane.
Yeah, and you mentioned fishing in different ponds. The high school recruits, I feel like right now, are more gettable than ever because of the portal. Like, a lot of teams have essentially turned off the high school spigot. They're getting a couple of guys here and there, and then they're okay. Let's transition to the portal and think what's there. Like I said, that's sort of what Tech has sort of made its hay on. Is that, you think of, what was that kid's name, Micah Hudson, who then transferred to A&M for the offseason, but then transferred back to Tech, and the second most college football thing to happen this year, next to Lane Kiffin. But yeah, I think if Oklahoma State wants to build a foundation of solid high school recruiting, I think that is more possible now than ever. Not only because of the coaching change and the money that's allegedly going to start flowing in now, but just because there are so many other programs looking more primarily at the portal that if you want to go get some of these elite high school guys, you've got a real shot.
It's a good call. All right. Nate has one more thing to say, though.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing. Robert Allen ended his sideline career at Oklahoma State, and there's a lot of mixed reviews on Robert Allen and some of the things that he said over the years. But nobody loves the Cowboys more than Robert Allen, and nobody loves the kids that come and play for the Cowboys more than Robert Allen. And he always treated everybody 1 through 25 or 35, whatever it was, the exact same when you were at Oklahoma State. And I always respected that. He knew who I was. I'm sure he knew who Justin was, like he knew where you're from. He took interest in you. It was his life on the sidelines. I'm sure he'll continue to do radio and some things in Stillwater, but I just wanted to give him a shout out because he's been such a big part of the listening experience and everything like that for fans for, what was it, 25 years now, I think he said, on the sideline. And it's people like him that make a place like Oklahoma State, and the feeling you get from somebody that loves it, and you can hear it in his voice. And I think, he was tearing up in his last interview with the AD because of what the kids have gone through. And like, he truly feels it and he loves it. And I get it. He's an easy target sometimes because he was the only one allowed into practice, and essentially sometimes, was like, is that Robert Allen or is that Mike Gundy saying it? You know what I mean? Like, you got that feeling. All things being said, shout out to Robert Allen for a great career and setting the standard of what it means to love Cowboy football. And, here's to a happy retirement and the next steps following for Oklahoma State.
That was a good call. Good shout.
Well said. Can't add much to that. Congratulations, RA. Well, we will see you guys in the next episode. Until then, what you should do is like, share, subscribe, comment to show your support. Share this episode with a friend, family member. Talk a little bit about Oklahoma State football. What's coming up?
Get in arguments of sliding door moments with your family and see where you get.
Have them sign up for the chamber and then hash it out online instead
Plenty
of
of arguments going on in the chamber if you guys would like to join in.
There's plenty of people willing to fist fight you there.
Especially a commenter asking who would win in a fight between Marshall and Nathan.
Yeah,
Find
Nathan's
going to
win.
Next episode.
Who's
Don't
who's going
spoil
to
it.
win, a Division I athlete or a kid who was in the band? Like, what are we talking about? What kind of questions is this? And it was a fight question.
Peak
Like,
off-season questions.
Yeah, that
by
is
the way.
peak off-season question. Maybe
Which is sad because it was
fight in the
coming during the season. If that's any indication as far as how OSU's football season was going. So appreciate the questions regardless. It's always fun to think about these hypothetical situations. Well, we will see you next time. Until then, keep those pistols firing and remember to reload. Go Pokes.